EWN, I'm Thembekile Mrototo, still covering elections 2024, the results part, if you will. And so far, a clear picture of what is likely to emerge at the end of this process, with over 99% of votes now made public by the IEC. No shortage of drama around this process. A short time ago, the IEC said it would grant condonation, a request that came in from parties in the Western Cape who are unhappy about what they believe are potential irregularities in the process so far. So from about this evening, then, that process will then close, and the IEC will have to resolve many of those issues, because tomorrow, 6 p.m. on Sunday, it's expected that there will be the official proclamation of the election results, where all the political leaders, including the president of the current government, Cyril Ramaphosa, will have to come here. I say current government because the ANC at the moment is hovering around that 40% mark and will need to form a coalition if they want to lead for another 5-year term in office. Now, one of the parties that has done well during these elections this year is the Patriotic Alliance. At last count, they were sitting about 2% of the vote. Over 327,000 people, from what we've seen so far, have voted for the PA. And we're joined by the founder of the party, one of the founders, Gayton Mackenzie, with me here on set. Gayton, good to see you. A day of celebration for you. I mean, when you came in here, it was basically a rock star arrival. Everyone wants to know what the PA is going to do with these 327,000 plus seats. I mean, votes, which means seats in Parliament.
Well, you know what? It's a very happy day for not only for me, but for the people that voted for us, for the people that rooted for us, for the people that want illegal foreigners mass deported. We are going to use these seats very strategically to make it very uncomfortable for any illegal foreigner in this country.
What do you mean by that?
We mean by that to say that, it can't be that our children are sitting without jobs and every restaurant you go to is illegal foreigners working. It can't be that our people are not having housing and they live in squatter camps, while you go to Hillborough, Sunnyside, everywhere, and they are living in hijacked buildings. It cannot be that today, when you go to hospital, as a pregnant South African woman, you sleep on the floor at Rahima Musa Hospital, while illegal foreigners on the bed. It just cannot be. And we are not going to be those people that campaign on one ticket, and when you have your votes, you now forget about the issue. We are going to keep on fighting for the removal of illegal foreigners from our shores.
How do you do that then with less than 3% of the vote? Because at the moment, you're just over 2%. So you wouldn't be the party of government.
Well, if you look at that result, we're going to be the kingmakers.
Potentially.
Potentially. Not, you see, there's potentially, and there's what you can see is a possibility. It's a pathway. It's no longer potentially. It's now a pathway. There's a pathway between ANC, EFF, and PA.
And that's important, right? Because the only way, when we're talking about pathways, you would be part of a national coalition is if the ANC goes that route, because the DA says they don't want to work with you. So you wouldn't be part of that coalition. Has the ANC reached out?
The DA says they want to work with me. You see, that is the white arrogance we're talking about. Have I asked them to work with me? You see, that's the problem. You can't say, you must never come to my house if somebody doesn't even know where you stay.
Weren't you invited to a braai at John's?
Yeah, they did.
And you never actually went, did you?
They just talk for the media, then they call me afterwards. They speak to me afterwards to say, hey, let's talk and whatever.
But there was a braai, right?
There was a braai at the house of Corne Mulder. So I'm saying when the DA say want to work with me, I want to work with everybody, including the DA. Because this is not...
So you would work with them?
I would work with them because, you see, once you're a leader, you mustn't project your feelings in your decisions. You need to take a decision that's good for the country. If it is good for the country that I work with the DA, I will work with the DA.
So then, again, to my
Helen
question...
Zella is not going to live another 20 years or 30 years in politics.
She's not without a fight.
No, she's old. You see, you can't fight age. So I'm still going to be around in 20 years. Hopefully not, but I mean, looking at my age. But they mustn't say things like, we're not going to work with you, because they just make the negotiation harder. If you love the country, it's like people that say they will not work with, they hate Jacob Zuma. Whether you hate him or you love him, he's a force now. You got to talk to Zuma.
How do you feel about him?
I love Zuma, and everybody knows that. And I've been telling the country that Zuma, we had the Daily Maverick with all the parties, and I couldn't believe what I heard there. We were on stage. And they all said Zuma's not affected this election. I said, excuse me?
Is this
Zuma,
before this election?
yeah, no, it's 2 months ago.
In Cape Town?
Yes, in Cape Town, on the stage. All of them said Zuma's not a factor. I said, excuse me? He's not a factor. He's the greatest factor in this coming election.
So you could be a prophet in your downtime.
Well, you know what? Don't want to be a prophet, but it seems I've got the sides of...
I want to go back, Gayton, to the 3% because this is serious. The issue of illegal immigration is one that has gained you support, but also it's one that has turned people away from the PA, right? Because people have said what you're campaigning on, what you were campaigning on, they said it was a xenophobic message. I want to go back to what, in this setup, when there are bigger parties who will be approaching you, possibly for a coalition, how do you convince them to adopt your approach to illegal immigration?
Coalitions work differently. Coalitions work differently. Number one, coalitions, you say, you put on the table what you want. So I'm going to put it on the table. You can't discard me. If you discard my views, you're discarding me. So my view is that illegal foreigners should go.
Is it your non-negotiable?
It's my non-negotiable.
So if the ANC and the DA can't give you what you're saying, because what you're basically saying is the mass deportation of
Yes.
foreign nationals who are in South Africa.
I'm basically saying to
how
them-
would it work? Talk me through the mechanism in which you would see that happening, because as things stand, there isn't even accurate enough data as to how many people are in South Africa illegally.
Everybody, you should be asked your passport
By who?
by the authorities,
Where?
wherever you are.
But we don't even have enough authorities for
No, but
day-to-day.
that's a problem we can fix. We can hire our children sitting at home to say, come, ask them for not only ask illegal foreigners, ask the Gayton Mackenzies. When you meet anybody, give me your passport, let's see, are you a South African? If you're not, lie on him. If he's not, take him.
Is that why you say you, in any negotiation for a coalition, you'd want to be in charge of the Home Affairs Ministry?
Yes, because you see, here's the issue. People say we're going back to the Dompas era. I get stopped as Gayton Mackenzie and they want to see my license. I get anywhere, they say, where's your license, where's your ID, before you get in. No, what's wrong with that? I've got nothing to hide.
Where these are places where you're going for official purposes, I'd imagine. Where you're
Not only that, I can
for
drive out
identification.
here, it's not official
The
purpose when
cops.
I go buy myself a McDonald's and the cops stop me for my license. That's not official, buying a McDonald's.
So how would you see it? That I'm trying to understand the practicalities. If you say, for example, we're all being asked to, let's say, show identification, do you then deploy Home Affairs officials, police, en masse, everywhere? It doesn't sound very feasible.
Now, let me first start with the beginning. What does the laws of this country say? There's 4 things. Number one, I'm asking for the law to be followed to the letter. The law says you cannot be here, being here illegally. That's the law. That's not PA, that's not Gayton.
And all the parties, I think, in their manifestos agree that
That's the
people
law.
can't be in the country.
So what
illegally.
we are asking is to enforce the law. That's all we're asking. We are not saying anything else. We are not saying turn a blind eye, because now it's being turned a blind eye. Foreign, illegal foreigners in this country are marching, going to stand in front of Home Affairs officers, illegal foreigners. What is that? This is not a jumping castle of a country.
Would you then want to, Gayton, also relook rules around asylum? Because often there's people want, the things are either merged right or wrong, where there are people who say, well, they're here because they're stuck and there's simply nowhere else to
Nonsense.
go. And they say they fled conflict, poverty, etc.
Nonsense. Let me explain to you the rules of asylum. An asylum seeker should flee to the nearest country. How do you jump from Nigeria here? How did you get here? That nonsense they will tell other leaders, not me. I know the law. Secondly, these asylum seekers we have here, they go on holiday December, go check at the border. You can't even go to Zimbabwe. That's number 2. What asylum seeker goes back to Ukraine? Ukrainians are real asylum seekers because there's war. There's not war in Zimbabwe. There's not war in Nigeria. What are they doing here?
And realistically then, let's say you go into a coalition and there's agreement that that is what you would do. You'd have the numbers, right, in the House, in the National Assembly to even pass a new, let's say if you're passing a new law around a sort of mass deportation.
Yes.
When that happens, how long would you want the people who gave the PA their vote to give you in order to make that happen. Because the problem with policies, whether it's on the issue of illegal immigration, employment, crime, people say, well, we vote because you promise us, and then the next election rolls around and all the political parties say, well, it's a work in progress, but you don't even see the progress necessarily. So how long is fair enough?
I think the people that voted for me, trust me. People want to see action. You know, the ANC promised 1 million houses. People still vote for the ANC or they didn't get the houses because they saw somebody else get the house. So when people see laws being enacted, laws being implemented, laws being worked on, policy being worked on, they can see there's a movement towards that. Don't underestimate the power of our 9 seats we were going to get in Parliament.
So you don't want to put a timeline to it?
No, with us we are sharp people. We are not these old people sleeping there.
Year 2, 3, 4?
No, I'm talking, what year 3? We're talking months when we get there. We are not taking old people there just going to sleep. We are taking people when we get there, they are going to work same time. Do this. But my brother, where we are sitting in city of Joburg, the mayor we are under mayor with 2 seats, 3 seats.
So here's the
He controls here, 9 seats. Do you know that if the DA and everybody else form the Moonshot Pact, if they get the numbers together, and the ANC and all the parties on the left and the parties on the right get this, they sit together, and then they must come to us.
And I hear you on what you're saying about getting things done. The problem is, especially if we're going to, in your policy, employ people, in effect, to better implement the rules, the laws. We're already told by government, or at least this possibly outgoing government, that there's austerity, government spending needs to be trimmed down. How do you prioritize that in a country where there's so many competing interests in terms of, again, the issue of jobs, which you've talked about, healthcare, education, housing?
You know what? The problem is that you must not judge what is possible by what the ANC has achieved. The ANC has underachieved. In this country, when you want to talk austerity measures and stuff like that, do you see the excess cars, the blue lights? Do you see that lots of security guards? Cut there, start somewhere there, cut that, all those things if you are serious about this thing. We have minerals in abundance. We are arguably one of the 3 richest countries in the world. With one of the 3 countries in the world, not the richest, with the richest minerals. We are endowed with lots of minerals. Let me make an example with Central Karoo. For 80 years, people have been using bucket toilets. The ANC was in charge, the DA was in charge. I came there and I said, in 100 days, I'll remove him. I did it in 100 days. People were drinking dirty water, I said 100 days. So we are 100-day people. We don't have time to waste time, whatever. Our people that voted for us, they are impatient, they trust us, but they don't have another 30 years.
Let's talk about other issues. Helen Ziller, who was in the studio with me here, I think 2 days ago, and I'm sure you've heard her on other platforms as well, talk about the growth of the Patriotic Alliance in this election, same with the MK party, where she says, basically we're seeing a lot more people voting. I think the word she used was ethnic, along ethnic lines where colored South Africans are voting for the PA and isiZulu speaking or AmaZulu are voting for the MK party in KZN. Is she right in that analysis?
No, see, let's not go with what Helen Zeller said or what Gayton Mackenzie said. Let's go on fact. The DA's top 20 list to Parliament does not have one colored in it. It's totally not one colored. The ANC's list to Parliament doesn't have one colored in. The IFP's list to Parliament doesn't have one colored in. The PA's list got coloreds, Indians, whites, African people in. Now, who's the racist there? Our leadership, the deputy president of this party is black. The head of marketing, there she is. She's an African woman.
You're running through the list now.
The Treasury General is a colored woman. There she is. The head of legal is a white person, the head of strategy. We are the United Nations.
Yesterday, I saw him.
Now, can you see? In the DA, it's not Witwolver.
So now, is there merit, though, to the fact that you do campaign ultimately to respond to the feeling of coloured South Africans who in some communities feel that they've been neglected. I mean, there were
I will
protests,
never
for example.
apologize for that.
No, I'm not saying you should apologize.
Every party has a base.
Yes, I'm not saying you must
The
apologize.
ANC's base is black.
I'm not-
The DA's base is white. Freedom Front Pass base is white. The PA's base is colored, and I'm very proud that my people now has a voice at the table. And they mustn't make it a sin that colored people are also at the table. They are so used to not seeing colored people at the table that they are shocked. Ons is binne. Die dink om ruk. We are there. We have built our own table because we were not welcome at the tables.
And
Colored power.
where I was going with this is not to say you're wrong to do that. Where I was going is we cannot ignore, isn't it, that people are affected by different things in the country and decide how to vote based on identity, because our experiences in a country, especially with our history, are still influenced, right, by whether you are black, colored, white, Indian, right?
Yes.
Whether you get a job, whether you get a good house,
Yes.
etc.
Here's the issue that nobody wants to answer.
So identity is important to politics, is what I'm trying to say.
Let me show you there's something that nobody wants to admit and nobody wants to answer. And when we're going to meet with the ANC or whoever, that's also one of the things on the table. Colored people are the first nation in South Africa. But colored people are not classified as African. What are we? What are we if we are not African? The government, the issue of the national question, nobody wants to talk about. The national question has been put aside. Colored people have been ignored, neglected. The children's CVs has been put in the bin. Colored policemen don't get promoted. So I am very proud in a time like this that I am a vehicle and an instrument to bring their issues to the table, but not exclusively.
All right.
I'm bringing the issues of Skalitsa, of Gulet, of Langa. I know the issues in Langa. Rats are eating the toes of babies. In Gulet,
This is in Cape Town.
yeah, in Cape Town, people are dying with shootings. In Kalicha, there's Suris running in the street. So we are not exclusively only bringing colored issues, while they exclusively do every issue except colored issues.
So, and I want to go back then to the issue of the coalition. You told us about your non-negotiables around the issue of immigration, right? What then about what you say are the ways in which colored South Africans have been neglected? What would the DA, or because you said you're open to working with both, what do the ANC and the DA have to give you? What assurances would you want on that particular issue?
They've got a law that says all opportunities should go to black, majority of opportunities should go to black Africans, to blacks, in particular black Africans. It's a nice way to say just give black Africans. We see it on the ground. What we want, we just want colored people to be recognized as Africans. Colored people were born here. They should be recognized as Africans. That sorts out all the problems, because when they fill in a form, the form doesn't recognize them as Africans. We are not aliens. We are sons of the soil and daughters of the soil. We want the Khoisan people to, you can't just get the Zulu chiefs. You just respect the Zulu king, the Zulu chiefs, but you don't respect the colored chiefs. What they have in me is another colored. Ek is a Malding. I'm going to fight for my people. I'm unapologetic about it. I'm going to fight for all the people. And I'm not scared of any of one of them.
And that leads me to this question then. How do you avoid being co-opted? Because the danger often with coalitions, right, is that you come in and the big players sometimes, not always, because they've got a bigger stake, so to speak, often use that to push through their policy, their ideological position, etc. And then at the end of it, some of the smaller parties can sometimes feel as though they were just used to pass a threshold, but none of what you came in demanding is basically delivered on.
A very good question and a very good observation. I'll make you an example. 2 weeks ago, 2 Fridays ago, in the city of Joburg, we're in coalition with the ANC. They totally ignored the El Dorado Park. They totally ignored all the colored communities in the budget. The budget didn't speak to the needs in the colored communities. We refused to vote for that budget, and the budget didn't pass. We said, bring a red pen here. We went through that budget, we changed it, and we said, we'll only vote for this.
And
we
do
voted
they
for it.
agree with that?
And the second issue they can co-opt people is sometimes with money. I'm okay. I have money, so it's
So
fine.
you will collapse it. If
I'll
you don't
collapse
get what
the
you want.
government the moment they want me to sell my people out.
And in terms of the coalitions, how should we better manage them? Because Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg even in Nelson Mandela Bay, there have been some of, by far, the worst examples of those in which one can have coalitions that are healthy and stable and deliver, most importantly, on what people have voted for.
Let me give you a point that I see journalists has not picked up on. Where there's no coalitions, servers are not wonderful there either.
Do you think we make a lot more noise because of coalitions than because there
Yes,
are multiple characters?
100%. You know, if servers were so great, there would not even have been a need for coalitions.
I mean, you're not wrong. You and I are from Bloemfontein, and it's in
Yeah.
a shocking state, and it's not under a coalition.
Exactly. And you see what's happening there. So now, all I'm saying is that it's better to have two people on the at the till watching than have one person alone at the till.
But I suppose the difference with coalitions is because so many people bring their support and pour it into one pot, the people who may have, let's say, who voted PA because they were fed up with either the ANC, the IFP, or DA, right, as examples, expect that when you have or are around the levers of power, things will be different. And that's where people tend to feel disappointed because if I voted for something different and you partner up with Party B, I'm expecting you to make sure that this thing works ultimately because I've now entrusted you with my vote for a few years.
It's not wrong, but the problem arises when you have parties like the ANC that wants to dominate, parties like the DA. The DA wants to control. Look at this moonshot pact.
So how would you work with them at national?
I was, because I am uncontrollable. I am ungovernable. You're not going to govern me. Look at the moonshot pact. They pressurized me to sign that moonshot pact. I refused. All the parties that signed that moonshot pact, look what they did in this election. They killed Action SA. They killed Freedom Front Plus. Because no party wants to vote, no person wants to vote for a party that's under another party. They've made this moonshot pact, they gave it a name. These people had a nice name, Rainbow Coalition. The DA comes, they say moonshot pact. Such a white name, there's no black person even know what moonshot pact was. They sent them to the moon, they never came back now. When they came back today, look at the board, because they sent them to the moon.
Did they come back?
They are back now. I saw them downstairs and they look at the board. See, now I said, no, I'm not going to the moon. I'm working the ground. You guys go to the moon, you will find me on the ground.
So you're taking a bus, not a rocket.
Yes, those are white words, moonshot bags. I didn't even know what was that. I was like thinking like, you know those moon bags, the people.
Gayton Mackenzie. So a prophet and a comedian. Vote.
Don't say that. Bakang used to like to call me a comedian.
And lastly, there have been objections, as happens with every election. In Cape Town, I know there was a request by the parties for an extension, basically, for the period in which they can then deal with some of the issues that were raised yesterday. Discrepancies, allegations of rigging in some parts of the country have come up. MK is, in fact, saying they want a recount because they don't believe that what the IEC is saying and what the IEC has presented ties up with the experience of their party agents on the ground. What is the position of the PA on A, the way in which the IEC has run the election, B, questions around the credibility of the election, C, whether we should have a recount?
I think one, I can tell you how they have run the election. What's my view of the IEC? I think the IEC has done an okay job. They didn't do a great job. They did an okay job. I think what the IEC needs to do, more training, and I think government has set them up to fail because they didn't give them enough money.
And Treasury issued a statement saying, well, no, you can't blame the lack of an allocation for what's happened.
Treasury must now wash their hands because Treasury is now out of power because a weak IEC serves them well. So Treasury, the IEC is not in a position to say what I'm going to say. They set them up to fail. But IEC can't say that. Gayton Mackenzie is saying that. The PA is saying that. The IEC set them up to fail. The Treasury set them up to fail, number one. Number two, what do I think about the
credibility?
About the credibility. I think they still have credibility. That's why we are not turning this floor upside down. But the problem with the IEC we need to work on is the staff. They need to stay away from these teachers of SATU. They need to stay away from people with political affiliation. They need to go get people with no political overtures, like this openly in certain political parties. Then the last thing is the recount. At first I said we must recount, but I'm not so sure anymore. Because this recount, the ANC will come back with a two-thirds majority.
I spoke to a political analyst, Anusha Naidu, and she was saying the danger of the recount is it's like a reassessment in university. You ask to remark, and then the mark comes down lower.
Yes.
Now what?
So I think the least that to the losers. We winners, we are right.
You're not trying to mess with that 300,000.
No, I'm not trying to mess with that. We are right. Was our word Gwala?
Gayton Mackenzie. So what happens if, lastly, if there is an application to stop the proclamation of the results tomorrow? Because Ace Magashule, when I spoke to him, didn't rule that out. He believes this election was rigged, in a widespread rigging, he says, especially that affected his party in parts of the Free State.
Well, if that has to happen, there's absolutely nothing we can do. You
Do
know,
you encourage it?
yeah, we will not encourage it. We want to go to parliament. Our people are ready. We want to go to parliament. We want to go to legislatures. We want to take out our rightful positions. And the ones that called me an ex-con and a pandit, they will now have to say honorable.
You see what they said on Twitter? They said you and Kenny are the best examples of the work of correctional services.
I laughed. She said me that. I cracked up when I said that. Let me tell you something. I was telling the guys of Rise Mzansi, exactly 11 years ago, I was where they are now. You had all these lofty expectations. And then you come back and you look at the board. So in Afrikaans we say, "Aanhoor wen." They shouldn't give up. They should go on. And one day, things will change like it changed for the PA.
Because this is not your first election. It's very important
No,
to highlight that
we've
this is
been-
not the first time you've been here.
We've been singing the same songs they're singing like we've been robbed.
You've cried before.
Yeah, we've cried tears there to bring the mob here and mob the tears away. But now, we are no longer crying, so the ones that lost, let them fight that fight. We are not going to fight that fight. We are happy our people are going to parliament, getting their suits ready, while they're getting their lawsuits ready. We are getting our suits ready. Look at your suit, how nice it is. So they're getting our suits ready.
Mine is retail, not tailor-made.
What's that?
Mine is retail, from the rack.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
this one that you do washing
Nothing
with?
fancy, hand
So,
wash.
hand wash?
Yeah.
No, we're not getting those ones for the parliament. Our people are going nicely.
Not
They are-
overalls.
No, what overalls? You can't wear
You can go
overalls.
in orange ones.
No, orange is present. I've won over. You are playing. We've been wearing prison overalls for 10 years. I don't even like the color orange because of the prison orange.
Gayton Mackenzie, good to speak to you. Thank you for
It's
your
always
time.
good to speak to you. Bye.
Well, that's another interview then with the various political leaders who are here at the National Results Operations Centre at Gallagher Convention Centre in Johannesburg. Much more for you, as always, on Prime Media Plus. You can also download the EWN app for more of our elections coverage. I'll see you
I
soon.
can't see 90. Just give me the amount there. Let me just hear.
Oh, which one? Which amount for the Patriotic
Yeah,
Alliance?
just check there.
Let's
It's too
see,
far
the,
for
the
me.
Patriotic Alliance, the PA, 325,000.
How much?
325,000.
Oh, thank you.
I'll have to pay. I'll have to get paid for
She
that.
laughs at you. You must deal with her.
Stay with Eyewitness News. Bye bye for now.
Man.